Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Titan FC welterweight, Steve Montgomery. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing really good, man.
Steve, you got a fight coming up October 31st at Titan FC 31. Before we start talking about that fight, I got to ask you, how did you get your nickname, the Creepy Weasel? Because creepy is something you never want to be called, and a weasel is something you never want to be called, but you're the Creepy Weasel. It's all combined. So how did you get a nickname like this?
It was two separate events, nothing crazy or special. Just when I started grappling, I was really, really skinny, and I was one of the smaller guys. I was like 16, so I was really small. And I was good at squeezing out of chokes, squeezing out of tight positions with heavier guys on top, so they just started calling me a weasel. And, you know, wheeze, whatever, all the little nicknames you can make out of that was what they called me in South Carolina. And then I came here to Florida, and I started fighting out of ATT, and I have a facial tick, like when I have like nerves and stuff, so my face will kind of tick, and I'll make like little goofy faces. It's kind of hard to notice, but they noticed it, and they were like, man, you were super, super creepy. Jesus. So they started calling me creepy, and then they both kind of got combined over time, the Creepy Weasel.
Oh, I see. I knew there had to be a good story with a nickname like that, so I thought I'd kick it off by asking you about that. But anyway, Steve, let's talk about your last fight. Before we get to the fight coming up on October 31st, let's talk about your last fight at Titan FC 29 back in August. It was a victory by split decision over Rakeem Cleveland. Just curious, if you had to give yourself a letter grade, what grade would you give yourself for the performance?
I would give myself probably like a C+, a plus, because I won. But overall, I showed some qualities, I guess, but I already knew that I was tough. I already knew that I could take a punch, and I knew I had good cardio and could push the face. So that really wasn't what I wanted to show. You know, I wanted to get a definitive finish. I wanted to show domination, and that's what I want to do in every fight. So it just sent me back to the drawing board. And you know, though, I guess one thing, too, I was happy with is it was a challenge. You know, I had 3 weeks to get which I chose to. I was trying to get the fight hard. We had 3 weeks to get ready for, you know, a tall southpaw, and I moved up a weight class. So it was just a good challenge, but I'm not really happy with my performance at all.
I see. Now, after the fight, before they read the judges' scorecards, how confident were you that you had done enough to get your hand raised, and did your opinion of the fight change when they announced one of the judges had scored the bout for him?
I was pretty confident that I took it, and the reason being is I know it's probably even hard for the judges to see, but when you're out there, you kind of get a feel, like the fighters get this rhythm amongst each other where you feel it, and I always felt after a certain point in the fight, pretty much after the first round, I felt like I was the one initiating the fight, and he was kind of just sitting and waiting on big punches, and I felt like I was landing the better shots. I know it doesn't look like it, but a couple of times I would crack him with shots, and if you notice, he'll follow me, and then he just backs off, what seems to be for no reason. But he told me later, you know, you'd hit me, and I'd go to follow you, and 6 seconds later I realized I'm rocked and have to back off. So I felt like I landed the cleaner shot. I got the takedowns. I got closer to finishing it. I was a little surprised that another judge scored for him, but at the same time I was like, well, you know, they must have thought because he dropped me that he did a lot of damage. But there really wasn't much damage done. I don't think either one of us were that swollen up after the fight.
Now, you mentioned that the fight was taken on 3 weeks' notice, but that was only preparing for Rakeem Cleveland. You had two other opponents before him. Is that why the fight was at 185? You were just looking to get in there against anyone? Or?
Yeah, it was about 3.5 weeks. They told us you're going to be on the card, and they offered us, I can't think of that guy's name, Baristol Marunde. They offered us him, and that got given to my teammate. So they just switched it up to an 85er, and they said, all we have is this 85er. And I went and looked, and it said he was a heavyweight, because I guess he used to fight at heavyweight. So I started looking around to make sure he was really an 85er. And then I found footage of him. He was, you know, skinny and ripped up. So I took it. I just wanted my opportunity. You know, I wanted to get the chance to show that I was ready for a bigger show.
I see. Now, coming up on October 31st, Halloween night, you're going to be taking on Brock Jardine. How nice has it been preparing for this fight because of no opponent changes?
That's a really, really good point. Honestly, the only word that comes to mind is readiness. Just complete readiness. I'm ready for whatever he brings. I'm ready to win. I'm ready to lose. I'm ready to break my leg, break his leg. I'm just ready mentally. I'm ready to win and grow from the win, to lose and grow from the loss. I don't care. I feel great. My stand-up feels awesome. My game just feels awesome right now. So I'm definitely ready for whatever. And the camp and having the same opponent for 6 weeks was really, really a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. I really like this matchup for you because I really think that Brock Jardine is going to come out guns a-blazing. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. I really think that he's going to come out and try to get some sort of highlight reel finish on you, and that plays right into your hands because you do well when guys take risks and take chances. So I really feel that this is a very good fight for you. Now, do you feel that he'll come out and try to come out guns blazing and get a big-time highlight reel knockout, or do you think he'll kind of sit back and be very cautious because he doesn't want to suffer that 4th loss in a row? What version of Jardine do you think we'll see on Halloween night?
I think you're exactly on the same brainwave as me. I think he is going to come out guns blazing, and I think he's going to look to make a big statement. But at the same time, too, I'm not counting out if I can shut that down or if I hurt him while he does it or whatever happens, there's always the chance he could go into that mode of let's just wrestle this kid, get the takedown, get the position, and stall around that. You never know when they're going to go into that mode because they got caught with something. I think plan A for him is come out guns a-blazing, mess this kid's face up. Plan B is, wrestle, get the position, tire him out, and then we'll bang him out and mess this kid's face up. Plan C, take this kid down and just get this W at all costs, or avoid this kid's distance, hit him one time, and then avoid it again. And so I think it'll come in layers, unless at the end of the day, MMA, can get stopped any time. So something could happen before all that, or it could be a slow evolution of his intention breaking down.
I see. I
definitely don't plan to just sit there and take it. I mean, he could, anyone can finish anybody, but I'm not just going to sit there and let it happen.
Right. Now, Rakeem Cleveland, he's a 6'4", very tall striker, and Brock Jardine is a 5'11", stocky wrestler kind of guy. Just curious, what preference of opponent would you have? Would you rather go against a tall striker or a short, stocky wrestler?
I guess, it's kind of good. There's good aspects to both of them. I try not to shut myself into thinking like, oh, this is a better spot for me. That's a better spot. That's easy to do, but, I'm trying to get to the highest level, so if you're trying to get there, you really can't think like that.
Right.
So to me, the thing that's nice about a 5'11" wrestler, generally you're going to be able to hit them from a longer distance, but I still work my inside game a lot, a lot of elbows, knees, inside punching, foot sweeps, wrestling, off the wrestling, failed wrestling, to the punches, back to the wrestling. I work everything, but the thing that's different too and nice about a 6'4" guy, if I want to take him down, it's easier to take him down. His hips are high up, or at least as high as mine. So, it was pretty easy to get in on the double legs and stuff on Rakeem. Even when he had me rocked, I was still able to find the single and turn it to a double because his hips were available for me. So, and you never know, a 5'11" guy, you go to get in on a double leg and, it's hard to find his hips. There's different positives and negatives to fighting both body types.
Now, of your past opponents, who closely resembles Brock Jardine? Is it Colton Smith? Is it someone else that you fought in the past? Like when you look at Brock Jardine's style and the way he fights, and you look at the guys that you fought in the past, who does he most resemble?
I think he's got better hands than Colton. He might have the same style of wrestling pressure, get him on the wall, grind your face in his face till he gives up a takedown. But hands-wise, probably the closely resembled guy I fought would be two guys. There was Robert Kirkpatrick back in 2012. He was a very bulky kid. He was only like 22. He was strong, bulky kid, wrestler, threw out big right hands and power shots. And then there was a kid I fought last year in 2013. His name was Anthony Lemon, same type of guy. He was big, bulky. I think he was like 200 pounds in the cage, throwing big right hands and trying to get takedowns and ground and pound. So I fought a couple of guys real similar to him.
I see. Now, do you train, solely out of American Top Team in Coconut Creek, or because I know they have a lot of affiliates throughout the state of Florida? Do you bounce around to different spots? Where do you train at?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely loyal to ATT, but I bounce around a little bit. I go to the American Top Team up in West Palm Beach. That's the jiu-jitsu coach, Marcos D'Amata. I work with him a good bit. I've gone to some ATTs down in Kendall. I have a couple friends that train down in Miramar, ATT Adventura, so I'd like to go down there and see some of those guys. The ATT in Wellington. I go to a CrossFit 157 back in South Carolina. I train at Swamp Fox Jiu-Jitsu in the Florence Fight Farm when I'm in South Carolina. And then I also been going to a little boxing gym. It's a Pompano Boxing Club, just with my boxing coach, and we get some pro boxers to come in and help me out. And some of them have similar body types, so they show me what they do. And I also have guys that come in there and work with me. So I just drill boxing constantly. I've constantly have guys putting the type of pressure Jardine's going to put on me. Mm-hmm. I think I did 42 rounds in 1 week. Not all power shot rounds, but all rounds where I had to either punch or be punched.
I see. Now, training partner-wise, because American Top Team has a lot of great welterweights, Robbie Lawler, Hector Lombard, Thiago Alves, the list goes on and on of great guys. I know I'm missing a ton, but there's a lot of great welterweights there, and you fight in that weight class, so who are your main training partners?
I have a lot of good guys that are kind of off the radar, not including my roommate, Jake Gombos. There's Bojan Velekovic, he's getting ready for an RFA fight. My buddy Mike Graves, who's on the Titan card. Hyder Hassan, who's on the Titan card. His brother, Mehdi. We got a lot of welterweights that are technically off the radar, but then, to name drop, I guess, Colby Covington, I got to work a lot with him in the grappling region for this fight. I got to do a lot of grappling and a lot of stand-up with Thiago Alves. We ended up getting to work at least 3 days a week together, so that helped me tremendously. And then, our jiu-jitsu coach, Hilton Barbosa. I just rolled with my buddy Soldier, who I fought on the Bellator show. Hector, I get to watch. One thing that's nice about Hector, I didn't get to grapple with him much, but I get to watch some of the stuff he does on the feet, and he's a southpaw too, so I like to try to take tricks and tools. Even though we're a different body type, I like the way he snaps his punches. And I got to do a lot of conditioning next to Robbie Lawler, or doing wrestling next to Robbie. But I've worked with all these guys in the past. Mm-hmm. So throughout this year, I've been training with these guys. When Robbie fought Matt Brown, it was a different story. We trained together more, but now he's fighting a short, stocky guy, and I'm not that. So it's all based on who's got what coming up, but everyone's willing to help.
I see. Now, attention-wise, how much attention are you getting from the coaches? Is it pretty easy? Do they do a good job of distributing attention equal?
Yes, a lot. And the thing is, don't get me wrong, guys like Pitbull, guys like Hector and Robbie, and Bigfoot, and any of those guys that are in the UFC or in a high-level fight like Bellator, or fight like when Saunders came down for the Titan belt and all that. I actually did get to train with Saunders a lot for my last fight too. But so when these higher level guys have camps, of course they're just going to naturally get more special attention. But when it comes to the guys who are, which I consider tight in a big fight, and so do the coaches, they really do spend a lot of time and attention with me. But I think it just comes down to the person you are at ATT. I mean, if you're a nice guy and you walk in there and you socialize and you make friends, you're going to get attention based off your character, not based off what you have coming up. I've watched several UFC guys, I'll never say names, but I've watched some of them come in and have this kind of, not even an air about them like, oh, I don't want to work with guys. They're just not social, and they're not good at networking, and they don't get any work in at all. And, I mean, they might have a main card UFC fight coming up. So it really is based on character in there. If you go in there and you're cool, humble, and you got a great attitude, the coaches are going to slowly start to gravitate towards you, and they're going to work with you. And, I mean, when I say I get a lot of attention, I mean, I would say I train probably 3.5 to 4 hours a day of hard sweating, and 2.5 of those I'm being intensely coached.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm just curious, who's going to be in your corner for this fight?
I think I'm going to have, I know I'm going to have Conan Silver, and I know I'll have my boxing coach, Chuck Eisenbeis, and possibly I'm not sure who else. Either Steve Bruno. My third guy is always a mystery man to the last second. Either my buddy Blake Bowman, one of my kickboxing coaches, Steve Bruno, or my roommate Jake. I'm not sure yet, but I know Chuck and I know Conan will be there.
Okay. Now, the USF Sundome, that's where this fight card is going to be taking place. It's going to be held in Tampa, Florida. So I'm just curious, how far away is the Sundome from where you live?
I think, given us some extra time, I think we're no more than 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
Won't be too bad. We're all going to take a car up there together, so it'll be 2 cars, about 8 guys, and we've got 6 guys on the card. It's going to be packed house with our peoples.
Oh, okay. Now, earlier you touched on it that when you started training, it was in South Carolina. You're originally from South Carolina, then you came down to American Top Team and started living in Florida. I'm just curious, when you were living in South Carolina, were you training MMA or were you just training jiu-jitsu, and then when you came to Florida, that's when you put it all together?
I was definitely training mixed martial arts, but it took a lot. It takes more effort here, but it's a different type of effort. It took a mental effort in South Carolina because I was, so hard. I was in the middle of the woods, and it's so hard to find training. I rode out to the first gym I ever started training at was 25 minutes up I-95, and then another 10 minutes down a back road to Turbyville, and it was called Spartan's Quest, and I actually had a really good I got lucky. I met my coach, Alan, who really put me through hard workouts and taught me. At 16, I'd never been through those kind of workouts, so he really taught me how to have a good work ethic. And then from there, I heard through the grapevine that there was another gym even closer to my house, but it was 15 minutes down some of the most back roads you could imagine. And it's called the Florence Fight Farm, and it was in a garage at the time. We ended up building like a body shop type metal building, a 20-foot tall metal building to train in, which still stands today, and people are still training there. But so I was training there in the weekdays, and then on weekends, instead of going out and partying and doing high school stuff, me and some of my teammates and my mentor and surrogate dad, Eric Lee, he would take me to wherever we could go to train, whether it be I think it was what part of North Carolina, something to do with it. I can't remember, won't waste time, but either way, take us to North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, take us out west or to Georgia, wherever we needed to go to train. He would take me on the weekends or take me to a UFC fight on the weekends. He's pretty much the person who truthfully kept my mind focused. He's the one who got me my first 3 amateur fights in high school and kept me on track with those. I ended up fighting on the same night as senior prom and skipped prom, and then I ended up fighting the day I graduated high school. And he actually was the first person to take me to American Top Team for a John Hackelman, Ricardo Laborio, and Matt Lindland seminar. So he's pretty much the reason I'm still in the mixed martial arts and into it as much as I am.
Oh, I see. Now, let's just say that you don't meet him and he never does what he did for you throughout the early part of your career. What are you doing now? Where do you think you'd be at?
There's a good chance I would have gone to the University of Alabama and possibly done something in like exercise physiology, or I honestly, man, that's a good question. And then there's always a chance, too, I might have ended up trying to be a pro surfer because I really do love surfing. And I was really into surfing before I found martial arts.
Oh, I see. Do you go to school now, or do you just fight?
I not dropped out, but I discontinued college back in 2010 and really got down on the training and training other people to make money. So now I'm actually probably going to start back school next year if I don't get signed by the UFC. I'll probably go back for exercise physiology.
Oh, I see.
Exercise science, I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, this will be your 4th fight in 2014. Is that a good amount of fights in a year?
I think so for a pro. I guess there could always be more, but it has been a really busy year. And the thing about being a pro is it's just harder to find pro fights than amateur fights. I was only amateur for 1 year, and I fought 6 times in that year, and that was really busy. But the amateur fights were easier to find, and they were easier to train for because I wasn't training at this level. Mm-hmm. So the 4 fights is a good amount. I think the most I've ever had in a year's span was. Yep, I had 4. One in a year's span. It wasn't in 1 year, but in a year's time, I had 4 fights, and I think I went 3-1.
Oh, I see. Now, Steve, your parents are very supportive of your fighting career. They're a very big fan of you fighting in mixed martial arts. Now, is that just because you're their son and they support you in whatever you do, or are they fans of MMA and they're just happy that you're taking part in the sport? Why are they such a big fan of your fighting career?
It definitely. I think their interest in the sport started because I'm their son, and they'll enjoy watching whatever I do. One thing I did have, out of all the things, which me and my parents are really close, but out of all the ups and the downs, my parents were excessively supportive and overly interested in what I was doing. Not because they wanted to control me, just because they were interested. They never tried to control me. They never tried to control my opinions. They let me like what I want, and they just watch it. It's like I'm their science experiment or something. I mean, they are just super interested, and it started as, I don't think they realized how much I was into it or what kind of capabilities I had in the sport. I don't think they really knew much about the sport, too, because realistically, until it got on Fox, I really like to think of it as more of a subculture when it was on Spike. And, Pride, in Japan, that's a different story, but in America, it was a subculture. And so I think they just thought, oh, it's another subculture fad. But as they saw my training increase, they started learning more about American Top Team and the quality of training and how it really is. It's almost like a different type of Olympic training. And then they started to see it on Fox, and that's when they said, okay, this is mainstream. Our son's at one of the biggest gyms in the world, and that's what the TV's telling us. So they're kind of old school. Once the establishment accepts it, they start to see it for that too. So as the sport grew and as my love for it grew, they really started getting not only into what I was doing, but into the sport as a whole. My dad probably watches more fights than me. That's a true statement.
I see. Now, will they be there on October 31st? Will they be live at the event? Will they be watching in the audience?
They've been at every fight this year because they've all been really close to where they live, or the one I had in Florida was, close to where I live, so they came down here. But I think my mom and aunt are going to try to make the fight, but my dad's got to work, so he won't make it. But he'll be watching from home and sending all his love. He's always out there when I'm fighting anyway. I'm always thinking about him as I'm stepping in the cage. I'm getting excited for them. I'm just thinking like, yo, just wait till you see what I'm about to do for you guys.
Oh, okay. Now, Steve, this fight is going to be taking place on Halloween night, so I thought I'd change gears a little bit and throw you some Halloween questions, change it up a little bit, get away from the old, boring, same old fight questions and change it up and ask you some Halloween questions. The first one is, what's your favorite Halloween costume? When you were a kid growing up, what was your favorite thing to go as? Give us all the details. How old were you, and why were you that costume?
I definitely did a lot of Superman costumes. I did a couple of Ninja Turtle costumes, but I think, out of all of them, because I remember being the most heartbroken when they would tear, is my Power Rangers costume. I love my Power Rangers stuff. I was always the red one, or the blue one, red or blue, every time.
What's your favorite candy?
Reese's. Any kind of chocolate peanut butter cup. Reese's peanut butter or anything with chocolate and peanut butter is just the way to go.
Now, what's the strangest thing you ever got on Halloween? Because a lot of people don't give out candy. Maybe they give out some sort of other food, or maybe they give out something else, like pencils I got one year, and I got money another year. I've gotten some crazy stuff. So what's the strangest thing you ever got on Halloween?
I think I've had deep fry. You know how they deep fry, not onion rings, but they fry a donut or something like that, deep fry stuff. This person was deep frying peaches.
Really?
And it was one of the most unappealing things I'd ever seen. Maybe I would try it now if I'm open-minded. When I was a kid, I kind of wanted to kick their bucket.
I know you said the peaches were the strangest thing you ever got on Halloween, but obviously we hear about all these horror stories about people putting razor blades and rusty nails and all kinds of crazy stuff in candy. There's a lot of sick people out there, but we've heard all these stories about these people doing this kind of stuff. Did you ever get any of that? I never got any of that, but I've heard all these stories. Have you ever gotten anything like that? Did you ever get anything crazy like that? Did you ever get any of that homemade stuff?
The neighborhoods I lived in were really pretty tiny neighborhoods, 50, 60 homes, and everybody knew everybody. If I didn't know 10 houses, I knew 10 people that knew who was in those 10 houses. So it was really small community. No one was handing out poisonous candy. I feel like that's more when you get in the bigger cities where people are going to different neighborhoods and stuff, and neighborhood hopping. That's when you start getting that chloroform.
Okay. Now, every year, there's that one guy who puts the big bowl of candy with the little sign that says, please take one. There's always that person on the block that can't be bothered, whether it's because they're not home or they don't want to deal with the kids. There's always that person who puts that big bowl out there. Now, I'm just curious, and you're not on trial or anything, so you can be honest. When you saw that, when you were a kid growing up and you were trick-or-treating, when you saw the please take one, did you just take one, or did you take the whole bowl?
I wouldn't say I took the whole thing, but I took obnoxious handfuls, and I never regret it, because that's called taking opportunity when opportunity arrives. This person was foolish enough to think a bunch of, sweet tooth, hungry kids are going to take one. That's their mistake and their hole in their armor. So I took as much candy as I could fit in my bag. The only reason I didn't take it all is because my friends took the other.
Okay.
But, I left the bucket.
Okay. Now, did you ever do anything bad on Halloween or Devil's Night? Did you ever smash pumpkins, toilet paper houses, egg houses, anything like that? Did you ever do anything bad, or were you a nice kid?
We were pretty bad. Eggs, toilet paper, dude, oh my gosh, smashed pumpkins on driveways. We put a dead a really big rattlesnake. It had to have been 4.5 feet, 5 feet. I mean, a big rattlesnake that our buddy's dad shot under their boat, and we took the rattlesnake and put some strings on its tail, threw it all over the people's porch, and they come out on their porch as a bloody rattlesnake, and they're freaking out and it's moving. So they called the police. We ended up hiding in the bushes while the police were just walking around. Yeah, man, we were really bad on Halloween. Really bad.
Oh boy. I wasn't expecting any of that kind of stuff.
Lighting porta potties on fire.
Oh,
yeah, we were, I guess you'd say, little ragers.
Oh, boy. Now, on Halloween night, what are the chances, when you're making your walkout for the fight, what are the chances that we'll see you in costume? Are you that kind of guy, or is that not your style?
That's a surprise.
Okay. We'll have to stay tuned. Steve, on October 31st, how do you give Brock Jardine a trick and give the fans a treat? How do you defeat Brock Jardine on Halloween night?
I'm going for a brutal knockout where he hasn't even fallen yet, and I'm still hitting him in the chin. That's what I'm going for.
Okay. So,
anything can happen. I don't make predictions, but, I mean, I can tell you what I've been daydreaming about.
Okay. Sounds good. Steve, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, just say to the fans, I appreciate everyone. I mean, any fans I do have, I appreciate them following me, stick with me, because I'm super entertaining, and it's going to be a lot of fun in the next couple of years with where my career is going. Sorry, there's a fire truck in the background.
Oh, okay.
And as the sponsors, man, my teams, American Top Team with Florence Fight Farm and all my scallywags back in South Carolina, and then I definitely want to shout out Bob Shever Wellness Center. That's the best physical therapist and just sports medicine doctor I've ever been to. Got to shout out Garden of Life. They just hooked me up with a box yesterday of tons of good supplements. GardenofLife.com, FreshMealPlan.com. It's an amazing company down here. They deliver really, really good food, and they literally deliver it like the milkman. Mm-hmm. My new clothing sponsor that is awesome that I'm really happy about. It's called Shredneck. It's a Florida outdoors company. ShredneckUSA.com. I'm sure I'm missing a couple people, but that's what I can remember off the top.
Steve, thank you for taking the time.
And I'm sorry. Let me just thank my mom and dad, because I know they're going to be the first people to listen, and they're my number one fan. So always thank my mom and pops. They are everything.
Steve, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck October 31st at Titan FC 31 against Brock Jardine.
Thank you so much, man. Don't forget to tune in.